Donald Trump sat down to speak with reporters at the National Association of Black Journalists conference in Chicago today. And during the first question, when the former president was pressed on his rhetoric, he lashed out at the reporter asking the question. Take a listen.
I think it's a very nasty question. I have answered the question. I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Politics reporter for Semafor, Kadia Goba, was one of the three moderators who spoke to President Trump, and she joins us now. Kadia, I know it's been a very busy and very interesting day, so I appreciate you joining us. And now that you've had a couple of hours to process what happened on that stage, what are your reflections about the things that Trump said, particularly his untrue claims about Kamala Harris's race and her heritage?
I haven't processed much of it because there's, like you said, there's still a lot going on. But I will say that that was very unexpected. And I feel like, possibly he made news for things that aren't true. I was surprised about that. It made me think that this is a new stump for him going forward. That's very unclear. I guess we'll see in any upcoming rallies or possibly debates. But it was very surprising to hear some of these newfound untruths or lies, I guess.
Yeah. You questioned Trump on the Republican Party and abortion. Let's hear a little bit of that exchange.
Do you think the Republican Party is getting a little bit too judgy about people's lives when you think about abortion or when you think about what J.D. Vance is saying?
I don't think, look, I think that the Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month.
So he went on to make some untrue statements there as well. He claimed that that Democrats wanted to allow people to commit after-birth abortions, which is not legal in any state. What did you make of his response?
Again, Donald Trump is very difficult to interview, and you have to be very pointed with your questions. And he didn't respond to that because what I was getting at is the Republican Party as a whole. Do you think that is, that they're making people, turning people off because they're judging him? Judging Americans, whether it's me as a person who doesn't have children or him as a divorced man. And he just kind of didn't respond to the question, nor did he really respond when I asked him about giving cops immunity.
Yeah, it was very chaotic up there on that stage. It appeared that his team pulled him early from the full 60-minute panel. I want to ask you specifically, though, about the way that he spoke to Rachel Scott of ABC. She asked him a very tough question right off the top, but it was completely factual. It was about some of the racially insensitive claims that he himself has made in the past. She was just reading back to him things that he has said, and yet he told her it was a nasty, hostile question. He called her entire network fake news, and he kept going back after her again and again throughout your entire Q&A. What did you think of that behavior, and what were the other NABJ members saying about it afterwards?
Well, obviously, no reporter wants to hear, a person they're interviewing respond like that. So, as you can imagine, all of us we're probably, we're taken aback by that because it was basically an affront on Rachel, but the other two panelists, including myself up there, especially the attacks on the sound system not working properly, just like it just kind of took away from the purpose of this. And that was to ask a former president who is now running for the seat, the Republican presidential nominee, what he thinks about certain issues. And it just, I feel like that was sidelined. Issues were sidelined by some of the chaos that, in particular, he started.
Right. It took away from some of the substantive policy discussion. You also pressed him on his age. Let's take a listen to that exchange.
If you win, you'll still be president at 82,
Yeah.
which is older than Biden is right now.
But not
Would you-
mentally. Look, mentally.
Here's the question.
He shot. But most people.
Would you
Most people. I know many people in their
Yeah.
80s and their 90s that are in great shape. Some of our greatest leaders.
Would you consider stepping down if you felt that your health was declining? Or would you?
Oh, absolutely.
And who would
I
make,
think I'd know.
How would you make that decision?
I think I'd know.
But would you consider taking the cognitive test?
Mr. President,
I would love to
and
do
make
it
it public?
Well, I've already taken 2 of them, but I'll do it again.
We don't have a lot of time left, but why did you think it was important to ask him about that topic?
I mean, it is the most, obvious issue at hand. The Democratic nominee has changed because a lot of people took issue with where Joe Biden is right now. So, Trump is not that much younger, and I thought it was an important thing to get him on the record for.
Well, Kadia Goba, I salute you for persevering under very challenging conditions today on that stage. Thanks so much for coming on to talk to us. I appreciate it.